Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of our national anthem.
Hey baseball fans, you're listening to Babes. Hello.
Hello, how are ya?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Thank
Good.
you for joining us tonight for another episode of Babes. I am happy to call out that you all have been seeing a lot more of us lately, so let's keep that going, Kelsey.
I'm here
Tonight
for it.
we have, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just said I'm here for it. More babes in 26.
More baseball. Tonight we have with us a special guest, a Guinness Book of World Records holder, Sean Harris. Sean is a Kansas City native and a veteran of the United States Navy. So, Sean, thank you for your service.
Thank
Sean's Navy career spanned 8 years and took him from Chicago to Seattle, down the coast to San Diego, and then globally to Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, Thailand, and then back to Hawaii, and then back to California, and then spent some time in St. Louis, and then landed back in his home city, Kansas City. He played baseball growing up all the way up to high school and then turned to coaching. And not only did he coach his much younger brother, but he has also now coached 4 of his 5 kids. And to this day, he still coaches his youngest son, who is now 15. Today, he plays in the Kansas City Men's Senior Baseball League. He is a utility player, but his favorite spot is behind the plate. And in August 2023, he became a Guinness Book of World Records holder after having played in the longest baseball game ever recorded at 100 hours across nearly 4 days. If you thought you needed the pitch clock for a 3.5-hour baseball game, try a baseball game that spans 3.5 days. So, Sean, thank you for being here. We're so excited to dive in and get to know you a little bit and talk about the endless game.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, Sean, wait. I have to ask before anything else. We got a lot of questions for you tonight, but please that you were not behind the plate in the catcher position for every inning you played in that game.
I was not. If I could have been, I would have been. I was actually in charge of my shift. I was the manager for my side of the team on my shift. So I spread guys around, made sure everybody was able to make the full 100 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine those quads?
Right. Like, I can't even imagine like watching the guys who do it, for a 2.5-hour game, let alone any longer. Woo.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I love that your favorite place is behind the plate because I just have so much respect for the catcher role. And we had the player development coach on from the Oakland A's, and she talked a lot about the importance of the role as the catcher, the leader of they really are the leader of the field. So I like to hear that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's I love it. I just, ever since I was a kid, playing the game, it was by accident. I had my best friend was a pitcher, and we were warming up one day, and he goes, "Hey, come catch a bullpen for me." I'm like, "You're crazy," but all right, whatever. And he really liked how how we interacted together. So he asked the coach if the next time he pitched if I could catch. And I told him he was crazy because I had never done it in a game before. And threw out 2 runners that day, and I was hooked ever since. Never wanted to play another position.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so funny because you kind of hear a similar story from people who end up in the catching position that it wasn't necessarily. It's like it chose them, you know.
Yeah,
It very
yeah,
much chose you.
absolutely. Yep,
Makes sense. It takes a certain kind of person to do it, and a lot of great
for sure.
players come out of that position. So no surprise at all.
Yep.
For sure. Well, I've noticed, so Sean, you were asking us right before the episode, like how I became a Yankees fan, how Kelsey became a Cardinals fan. And so, and we've had a lot of new followers lately. So I thought it would be a good chance for us to just reset and give just a really quick, like briefing of who we are and how we became fans. And then we'll dive into asking you the questions. So,
All right, sounds good.
well, I'll kick it off. So I'm a diehard Yankees fan, as you can tell here. I grew up in Nebraska, and my dad was growing up in the 60s, 70s during the 60s during the Mantle Maris chase. And that was like a critical time, I think, to be just getting into the sport of baseball. And with that going on, the excitement in New York, that hooked him for life, and he passed it on to his kids. And fast forward to when I was about that age, we went to the first ever game played at Coors Field in Denver, where the Rockies play. And the Yankees broke a bat during that batting practice, handed me the bat. And so I got and then I got a ball later in the game too. So leaving that game 5 years old, 6 years old with a bat and a ball. And it was right on the cusp of the 90s era of the Yankees. And that was really my moment that solidified me. So, I can imagine nowadays there's the Aaron Judge is hooking, on his 62 chase. So, that's kind of the story of me, I guess. And Kelsey, let's hear about your fandom.
Yeah, so Sean asked us this right after. I'm like, oh yeah, what's the weather like down there? I'm up here in Chicago. And he's like, wait, what's all that St. Louis stuff doing behind you if you're in Chicago? Great question, Sean. Oh man, I never planned to end up here, but I grew up in central Illinois, right in between, like dead in between St. Louis and Chicago. But my dad's parents, so my grandparents are from St. Louis. And so my dad spent some of his childhood in St. Louis. And he was very adamant about raising us to be St. Louis Cardinals fans, even though my mother and her whole family are Chicago Cubs fans. So fortunately, my dad went out there and raised us right. And we also grew up it was just more accessible for us to go down to St. Louis, probably a lot more affordable for a family of 5 to go down to St. Louis than to come up to Chicago. So we would go down to St. Louis every summer, go to a game or two at Busch Stadium. Busch Stadium 2 is where I have been even more than the new one because I went there so often as a kid. And yeah, I don't know if I just love the experience of it so much, or I liked watching my brother was very good at playing my younger brother. So I liked getting into the statistics and analytics of it. And I made up my own scorebook. And even though I never played myself, I am a musical theater performer. And I think the elite performance side of it has always been super appealing to me as well. So yeah, I just always followed it very closely as a fan. Even though I moved to New York City, I went to lots of Mets and Yankees games. I still was diehard St. Louis. I moved here to Chicago for my performance career. And, there's no way in hell that I'm going to flip flop. And, actually one of the first days that I lived here in Chicago, I was walking outside with a Cardinal shirt on, and someone who was sitting at brunch outside threw toast at me. And
oh no.
God.
What are you doing? So yeah, I had a bad taste in my mouth right off the bat. No, but I love living in a great baseball town, even if it's not St. Louis. And yeah, that's how it all happened. But you're back in Kansas City after traveling to the place. Were you born and raised there, and is that how you became a fan of the Royals?
Well,
Oh no.
It hit me. You know, it wasn't my dad's favorite sport. Man, my dad was more of a football guy. It just hooked me. You know, loved watching it. I'd watch any baseball game. You know, he'd come in the room and I'd be watching, who knows, you know, the A's and Yankees or whatever, and he'd ask me, "What are you doing? Why are you watching that? It's not the Royals. It's baseball." You know, so it was, you know, it was just a thing for me. And, you know, just living here, growing up in the 70s and 80s, the Royals were, you know, a team to beat in the 70s and 80s. So it was easy, you know, to be a Royals fan. My dad's aunt had season tickets, you know, back behind third base. You know, we'd go to a ton of games with her every year. So it was just, you know, it hooked me. It hooked me early.
For
That's so
sure.
cool that you just were drawn to it. I guess that's very much part of my story too. I'm like, Jonna played the sport, or you know, has more of an athletic background. I'm just like, I don't know, I just loved it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The
Yeah,
atmosphere,
it's funny.
and like you said, it's a way to connect with family too. And I think,
Yeah.
I don't know, for me personally, I think for Kelsey too, and from a lot of people we've talked to, like that's the one thing that we have a lot of us have in common, that we connected with family over it, like from the start.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great that, you know, my youngest son is the only one that really stuck with it. So, you know, I always told the boys, hey, I'm probably going to coach even if you don't play, but, you know, I love coaching you while you are playing. So the fact that my youngest boy is still playing, it has been great. It's been a nice connection for the two of us, you know, and, you know, he'll send me some TikTok video or whatever, you know, baseball stuff. And, you know, we'll sit and watch. They just had the George Brett thing on MLB Network. So I was showing him some of that. It's like, hey, you ever seen a guy get in a fight on a baseball field? Nobody gets thrown out. So I showed him some of the 70, I think it was 79 ALCS between the Yankees and Royals. So.
Well, speaking of George Brett, I actually recently found in Omaha, because I am where the Omaha Royals home. Well, now they're the Omaha Storm Chasers, right?
Yep.
But I found a George Brett Omaha Royals jersey, and it's like
Oh, wow.
the old school baby blue.
Yeah.
So I bought it. I just need to get it framed and hang it up. But
that's cool. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, before we dive into asking you questions and talking about the endless game, we like to start out with a little game that we call Around the Horn. So we ask a couple of icebreaker related questions, and then we toss it around the horn and we each answer, and then we'll dive into talking about your fandom and the endless game and all of the things.
Cool.
So since this is our last episode before Christmas, I wanted to keep it a little like holiday spirit related here. So the first question is, what is one trade deal, past or present, that you would take back for store credit? So I'm going to toss this one to Kelsey if she...
I got it. I got it.
I figured it was back in there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the Cardinals are, gosh, I feel like depending on who's listening, I could get like a lot of crap for saying this, but I think they generally are a well-run organization. They make more good moves than bad, but there are a few that have been highly criticized as of late, and a lot of people would probably say the Randy Arozarena trade for Matthew Liberatore, who is a pitcher who has yet to really find success in the major leagues, but I'm not too salty about that one. The one that I don't, can I just return it, like even exchange? Can I just get back what we gave away? Would be when we traded, I believe it was the end of 2017, so it was going into the 2018 season. They traded Zach Gallen, Sandy Alcantara, and a couple other minor league players to the Marlins for Marcell Ozuna, who, I mean, he was average for the Cardinals. He's not my favorite guy to root for. And can you imagine now if we had even one of those two guys still in the Cardinals organization? So that's mine. No questions asked.
That's an excellent answer. Yeah. Sean, do you have yours, or do you want me to go and then toss it?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I could probably throw out a few, but I think the one that kind of sticks in my craw right now the most is Whit Merrifield. I don't even remember who we got in the Merrifield trade, but he was my guy here, other than Salvador Perez, obviously. But you just had to love the guy. I mean, he said all the right things. He did all the right things. He played whatever position they asked him to play. He could hit on a regular basis. It was hard to give up a guy like that and really not see much of a return for anything.
For sure. Yeah, the Royals better hold on to Bobby Witt Jr., right? Like, I can see that one down the road being the one that, the next one that gets away.
Wow, let's hope not.
Mine is probably going to be pretty obvious to most baseball fans who pay any attention to the Yankees. Josh Donaldson was like the worst possible thing to ever happen to the Yankees. We gave up Gio Urshela, who is now a free agent. So I was really kind of hoping he would come back, but he's not going to come back. But we dealt Gio Urshela, Gary Sanchez, and obviously Jordan Montgomery to the Cardinals was all part of that too. And yeah, so that was just like a big year of things that I would like to return. Yes.
Well, that's kind of upsetting. Let's talk about something more.
Right.
Okay. Okay. You can invite one player, past or present, over for the holidays for holiday shenanigans. Maybe some friendly competition, family games. Who are you inviting and why?
Oh man, that one's hard. There's so many.
Mm.
I'm going to pick somebody totally random because I could say Adam Wainwright. I could say Harrison Bader. There's a lot of fun personalities, I think, but I would pick someone totally random and say John Brebbia, because if you're at all familiar with him, relief pitcher, most recently of the Giants organization, he just has the most unique sense of humor. And I just think if you invited him over for anything and said, yeah, we're celebrating, we're having a good time, he is going to show up with some fun activity. He's going to show up wearing something ridiculous and just be the life of the party in more ways than one, I think. So
I like it. I like it.
What about you?
Oh, they can be dead or alive, by the way. So if that helps.
No limitations.
No limitations. I think for me, it'd have to be just for, the aspect of the guy that's going to be just light up the room, Salvador Perez. I mean, that's an easy one. I mean, the guy's always got a smile on his face. That's kind of a tough decision, though, because Bo Jackson was just, an incredible athlete, number one. But the fact that we got him in the draft and he played for the Royals, that was an awesome thing for me. I saw his first game. But if I had to pick between the two, it'd be really tough, but probably Salvi would be my guy.
I like that. Yeah, you're right. Every time I go to Kansas City to the K, I see him come out of the dugout with his catcher's gear and his helmet off, and he always has a smile on his face. I like that answer. I'm going to go with Yogi Berra because he is hilarious. He was hilarious. He would bring Yogi-isms aplenty, and I just think he would be a lot of fun to shoot the shit with and play games with. So that would be my answer.
I'm sure they have a lot of good stories to tell.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I know.
Right?
That's back in the day when they would really do the hardcore partying, on and off the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably would have a lot of good stories. So, all right. Well, do we want to move into our main seg here and we can just fire off questions?
Yeah, let's go for it. So you've mentioned already, Sean, Salvi Perez, and Bo Jackson. So just to confirm, I guess, at this point, our first question for you was, who is your favorite player of all time and currently? Would those be the two? Or?
Oh, wow. I was always a big Frank White fan in the 70s and 80s. I mean, the guy, he didn't get a lot of press here. Brett got all the press, and Brett was the guy around here forever, right? But I don't know. There's just something about Frank that I always kind of liked. And definitely Salvi today. It's definitely a tough all time. Granted, the Royals have only been around since '69, but so many great players that we had. Guys like Willie Wilson, Frank White, George Brett. Obviously Bo Jackson. We've just had a ton of good guys. You got to throw Zach Greinke in there. Great pitcher. It was great to have him back. Kind of hoping that even though he's getting up there in age, but he's close to that 3,000 strikeouts. Kind of like to bring him back for another year, give him that shot at it. I mean, the little kid in me is gonna say George Brett probably all time. And definitely currently Salvi.
Is there a player from another team that's not the Royals that you particularly like to watch who's playing right now?
Playing right now, gosh, there's a ton. I mean, you gotta love watching Soto. You gotta love watching Judge. You gotta love watching Ohtani. It took my son to go see him when they were in town here recently. Trout, before all the injuries and whatnot. There's just a ton. There's so many great ball players out there today,
Do you live pretty close to the stadium? Do you get to go a lot?
Yeah, I'm about 20, 30 minutes away. So yeah, we go quite a bit. I had a package for a little while. I mean, it's so expensive anymore. Yeah. Not compared to football, obviously, but but I had a 15-game package for a couple of years. So, and it's tough with everything going on. My plan, my son playing, trying to find the time to get out there. But we try to get out to, somewhere between 5 and 10 games a year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And
it's just cool to be that close so that you can go see when like Ohtani comes to town,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we planned that pretty early. They, the boys were definitely excited about it. So it's like, oh, let's go.
Yeah, for sure. So on that note, then, what is your best memory of watching your team?
Oh, wow. Gosh, I mean, the 80 World Series, the first time they'd been in the World Series, that was a big one. The 85 series, obviously winning one, after the debacle that was the 80 World Series and going up against, it was a great Phillies team that we went up against. But, 2014, 2015, actually being able to go to World Series games those years, that was, great. I took my younger brother to game one of the 2015 series. Talk about a game. That was an awesome game. The inside the park home run by Escobar and early on, Gordon hitting the game tying home run. And it was amazing day for sure.
I was going to say the Nebraskan in me was a little bummed that you didn't mention Alex Gordon as one of your favorites. Although maybe it just slipped your mind, but
there's never been a dislike for Alex Gordon. Just for whatever reason, he never really hit me as one of my favorite guys. Rooted for him, loved it when he did well. Obviously, got to meet him here recently at a coaches conference, so it was pretty cool. But I think a lot of it was kind of like the Zach Greinke thing. He keeps to himself so much that there really wasn't a whole lot, they interview him and things like that, but he just didn't stand out as a personality, right? So, you kind of gravitate to those guys that are, really upbeat or, whatever. And he was just he kept to himself. He really didn't speak out a whole lot. And, his interviews were usually pretty quick, so it was just, I think that's probably what it was more than anything, just not a whole lot of personality there. So you just really didn't gravitate to a guy like that, even though he's a great ball player. That
actually makes a lot of sense now that you say that. I recently read that, and I forget what school it was. It was a school in Texas, and one of their manager, I forget if it was like Texas A&M or I don't remember, but whenever they would play Nebraska, when Alex Gordon was in college, he wouldn't let his guys watch batting practice because Alex Gordon would just destroy the ball, and he didn't want them that to like destroy their confidence. So he would make them go into the locker room while Gordon was taking BP. So yeah, that was pretty powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because now I think they're starting, or there's certain shows and media personalities who are trying to really commit to doing a better part of highlighting the personalities and just I think is really good for the sport. So that is a good call out, that it's just something that hopefully will become more and more accessible. But Sean, what I've been keeping an eye on is the Royals are like doing things and being
and
spending money.
It's exciting. Yep.
What is there anything in particular that you're like most excited about move that they've made so far? What are you looking forward to about 2024?
I think the Michael Wacha signing is probably the biggest one. I mean, obviously being close to St. Louis, I've seen him pitch in St. Louis. I've seen him pitch here with the Cardinals. Followed him when he went to San Diego. I mean, he's a great pitcher. It's great to see, us spending money. Great to see us spending money where we need to spend money with the pitching. Hunter Renfroe is kind of an interesting signing for me too. I think we need some power in the outfield. So, the trade that we made with Chicago with the Cubs for Quas for Velasquez. Really is he perked up a lot of guys around, a lot of folks around here. He hitting the home runs. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does next year too.
Yeah, they're adding on both sides of the ball, and I totally agree. I'm jealous because not that I don't know. I think the Cardinals could have done a lot of different things, but it would have been a bad fit to bring Michael Wacha back because I think he's like very underrated. His last two seasons, he has had a lot of success and just been super consistent. So agreed.
Oh, Sonny Gray's a good signing for you guys, though.
He is. We just needed a little more than that. Anyway, I won't. We've got more exciting things to talk about at the moment.
So transitioning over to the endless game, how did the idea come about? Like, tell us a little bit how that all transpired.
Yeah, so we finished up the 2022 season on our end, and I've been playing. This will be my 5th year, so I've been playing for a few seasons. And the fact that I'm a utility player, I got to play with a bunch of different teams, filling in. Hey, guys would call me, hey, you're not playing, at X time, would you mind filling in? We need a player. So got to know a lot of the guys in the league pretty quick. My first year was 2020. And obviously with the pandemic, there wasn't a whole lot going on. Our season got pushed out. We weren't working. So I would go out to the park where we actually played the endless game. I would go out there and just hit balls into the cage, just trying to get used to it. I was, so nervous because I hadn't played in years, so I don't want to go out there and make a fool of myself. So, I'm going out there and I'm just hitting the balls in the cage, and these guys come up, they're like, hey, we play in a league, do you want to practice with us? Sure, why not? Well, turns out same league. So I got to know these guys through those practices and things like that. And at the end of the 2022 season, one of the guys that had been playing in the league for years, he calls me up one day. He goes, hey, we've got this idea to break the world record for the longest continuous game. And I'm like, hey, I'm in. I mean, that's all I had to say. I'm in. Let's do it. It sounds like a blast. And he goes, well, we're calling pitchers and catchers first, because obviously that's going to be the biggest, key for us, is having enough pitchers and catchers to get through these 100 hours. Well, we didn't even know we were going to do 100 hours at that point, but the record was 83 hours. So, within 2 minutes of the phone call, I already told the guy I was in, so I was ready to go. I mean, I'll play as much as I can. Guys will call me, hey, I know you got a game at 3, can you play at 1? Yeah, absolutely. All right. we need guys to stay after my game at 3. You want to play? Sure, why not? I can't do it all the time, especially not at 52, but I'll play as much as I possibly can. So yeah, that's how the idea started. We just phone calls, guys trying to find out who was interested. We had a list of, I think, about 80 guys at one point, just to make sure we had enough. And then finally, once we figured out what the rules were from Guinness and dwindled it down to 60 guys, 2 30-man teams. So
2 30-man teams. And then, did you have like 3? Didn't you have 3 groups of 10 who like shifted?
Right. Yep. We had 3 squads of 10. We played in 4-hour blocks. Like the squad that I ran, we played from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And actually, I was lucky enough that my squad was on the field when we actually broke the record.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's got to be so many like logistics behind putting it all together. I mean,
yeah.
Where do you even start? Obviously, you had the idea, started with building the rosters, but then like find the location. How did you plot it all out and ultimately pull it all together?
Yeah, so there's a park here called Mackin Park in North Kansas City, Missouri. That's where we play a lot of our games. So we knew we wanted to play there. We started talking with the Parks and Recs director, and she was all in for it. So that was fairly easy. Once we finally got a lot of the ins and outs of what needed to be done, as far as what Guinness needed. So we actually all had to stay on site for the full 100 hours. Nobody could leave. Yeah. So of course, when that came out, the list of guys started dropping like flies. Like, nope, I'm not staying there. Fortunately, my younger brother, he played with us as well. So that's another cool thing for me was this is the first time my brother and I had a chance to play together in this league. And when I got the call, I called him. I said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? So he was on my squad and we got to play together in this too. So, but he was able to get a camper for us. So we had some creature comforts, if you will. But yeah, we all had to stay on site for the full 100 hours.
Okay. Wow. So do you have like, I don't know, I'm thinking at it from I've been very involved in the fitness industry throughout my life as well. So I'm just thinking of it like, was there, did you have plans of like how you're going to stay loose or awake, or, I mean, did you sleep at all? Like,
so sleep was, it was tough for some guys. For some of us, it was, playing 4 hours, I'm exhausted, I'm ready to go to sleep. For me, it was, okay, we're done playing, I got to eat something.
Yeah.
Staying hydrated was the hardest part of the whole deal. We're playing over the Labor Day weekend, so it is hot here in Kansas City. I had to pull myself out of a game. I had caught for 2.5 hours in the heat. It was one of the afternoon sessions, so caught for 2.5 hours. Went out to second base, let another guy get behind the plate, and kind of started seeing stars during one of the innings. I'm like, okay, it's time to go sit down, push some fluids. So I mean, and that was the hardest part for me. And that kind of kept me up some days, was putting together a lineup, trying to figure out who's starting where, who's going to move where. We did have an extra guy. We only batted 9. We didn't bat all 10. Trying to figure out who was subbing for who'd go back in for who. Thank goodness we had unlimited substitutions. Didn't have a lot of guys that played a lot of positions. We had some flexibility, but in fact, I've never pitched a day in my life other than batting practice to the kids that I coach for, and I actually pitched 3 innings one of the games just to make sure I kept my pitchers healthy, right?
Great player here.
Yeah. Utility guy.
Sean there, making the big bucks these days, I hear.
Right. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. But yeah, like I said, the toughest part of it was, for me, trying to make sure I kept everybody as healthy as possible. And then, like I said, we'd get done, we'd eat something, we'd all go back to the camper, and my brother would pass out. We had another buddy of ours hanging out in there with us. He'd pass out, and I'm still sitting there writing lineups and stuff. And So
Wow. So did everyone staying there have campers?
there were quite a few, and we got some donated to us too. So that was
Okay.
nice. So we did have a few that had some. We had guys that just pitched tents.
I wondered about that, and man, I mean, I'm 3 hour or 2.5 hours from there, so I understand the heat and the humidity, and
Yep.
yeah, that's crazy. Like, what a time to pick to do that.
Right. Yeah. Well, we knew guys that have time off, it being the long holiday and doing it over that weekend seemed like the most reasonable. And a lot of times, we're not playing over that weekend in the league anyway because it's a holiday. So it seemed like a good time to do it.
Sure. So, gosh, like there must have been so many hands on deck behind the scenes too. Like people,
Yeah,
do you have
absolutely.
a lot of people in the community bringing like food and water and?
Yeah, we did. Had a lot of folks that local restaurants that donated food and had a ton of volunteers, which was awesome. So great. Our goal was initially to raise $300,000 for a bunch of local charities, Children's Mercy Hospital, Veterans Community Project. Several. And the Parks and Rec as well. I mean, they need the money as well, for our youth programs and things like that. So there were 5 or 6 different charities that we played for. I think the last total that I heard, which our website, endlessgame.org, is still up for folks that, would consider donating. But I think we were at like $75,000 or something. So we're so short from our goal, which was kind of disappointing, for a lot of us. Obviously, getting the record was great. We were all super excited about it. Still doesn't seem real, that I'm a world record holder type of thing. But, we were all so excited about that. And, a lot of us were kind of deflated that we really didn't even come close to our goal for what we were doing. So the plan is to do it again next year. Obviously not have to worry about the world record and all the, constraints there, but to go back out there and at least play for 100 hours and raise some money for charity.
Wow. Well, we'll drop your link in our show notes, of course, and we'll try to spread the word for you.
Appreciate that very much.
Well, and like, I hope you don't feel deflated because like we're still talking about $75,000. Like that's
right.
Incredible.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I don't want to diminish that in any way, shape, or form. But like I said, we were all so excited. We figured $300,000. We should be able to do this in a 5-day period. We got a decent amount of local press. It was interesting because my brother and I were one of. We had a father, brother, and sister that were playing together, a father and son that were playing together, and then my brother and I. So. We got a little bit of time on the news, so that was kind of cool. I'm not a big fan of talking about myself, so it was a little intimidating at first, but as long as I can talk about stuff I love like baseball, it's kind of easy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but there were a ton of people that were involved, especially behind the scenes, setting things up, working on, making sure that we had food laid out and all that, especially for all the different shifts and everything. So definitely appreciated more than words can say, all the volunteers.
And did you have spectators? Like, did you charge spectators to get in?
It was free. We didn't charge anybody, but we had a ton, especially the closer we got to the record, which, you as a kid playing baseball, you dream of playing in front of people, right? And so most of the bigger crowds were on our shift between 4 and 8. So it was pretty awesome to play. And granted, we weren't playing in front of, 40, 50, 60,000 people. It was probably 100, 200 people. But, normally during the league, we've got like 5 or 10 people, and it's usually family members, wives, whatnot,
Right.
So it was pretty awesome.
Okay, so what happens like the moment, because 83 hours was the goal that you were going for?
83 hours was the previous record, and we set a goal prior to starting that we were going to play for 100 hours. Okay, so what happened when you got past that 83-hour mark? Was there someone there on site that like made it official, or what was it like? No. So we kept logs for Guinness. We had to have scorekeepers. We had to have somebody keeping track of players going in and out, things like that, the substitutions. So we kept all those logs. And then for the last hour, 2 hours, I think it was, there was an actual Guinness person here to certify, go through everything we did and certify that we had played for 100 hours in 1 minute.
That's incredible. Like, I just never, like, you don't think about what it requires to actually have something like established as a Guinness World Record,
Right. Yeah.
And the amount of people that you brought together to make that happen is
Oh,
really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
cool
And
to have a personal accomplishment, but to do it with people and then people in your family as well. And people
yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely amazing. Like I said, I play in the league with a lot of these guys, played against a lot of these guys, played with, some of these guys. So it was definitely a special thing for all of us. And to go back to the things that it took to do this, we videotaped the whole thing. So there's video evidence of everything. We could not dilly-dally as far as getting on and off the field. It wasn't, you couldn't just, take your sweet time getting out there and everything. So injured players, we had to try to, if you couldn't play, had to try to get you off the field as quickly as possible, get somebody substituted out there. So, it had to be a continuous game. So we had a small amount of leeway between, flipping sides, when half an inning was over or whatnot. But so, and there were some tempers that flared off and on. We had
I imagine people
younger,
were getting cranky.
we had a younger group so early on, and we had guys that were playing hard, stealing bases and whatnot. And there were some guys that kind of took offense to that, and started giving us a hard time that, hey, we got to get through 100 hours. Hey, we get it. We understand. I'm not going to hold my guys back. If they feel like they can steal a base, great, go for it, but yeah, we're not going to go out there and kill ourselves. And, we did have a few injuries, which was sad to see for some of the guys. We did have one guy that broke a couple of ribs and wasn't able to continue. So we kind of had to manage that too, with extra, get guys off other shifts to make sure we had plenty of people to substitute and whatnot. But, so it was a great time. It was exhausting. By the time we were all said and done, I was pretty cranky and ready to just go, eat something, go home and get back in my bed type of thing, but it was
did it take you a couple days to feel normal again, to kind of catch up with you?
Surprisingly enough, I wasn't all that bad. Like I said, being 52 years old, definitely don't bounce back as like I used to when I was younger, in my 20s, 30s, and younger. But playing continuously like that, only getting 8 hours off. It was a little bit tough to kind of warm up, after your 8 hours off. But once you got warmed back up, everybody felt pretty good for the most part. There were a lot of guys with some aches and pains for days after. Surprisingly enough, the amount of time that I spent on the field and behind the plate, I didn't feel all that bad afterwards. So,
I mean, you were playing already. So, and like you said, you just kind of play at any opportunity that you got. So you probably almost marathon style trained yourself for it without really knowing.
Well, I don't want to know.
Whatever you did, Sean, just tell everybody else. And when you get
right. Absolutely.
So how many total innings did you guys play? And then what was the final score?
Not really sure what the total innings were. I get asked that a lot. And, since we weren't really up there in the booth where they kept score, we really never, I'm sure there's a few guys that probably know. And, so I do need to ask and find out how many innings we played. But the final score was my team, Team Courage, 407 to, what was it? No, 469 to 307. Was the final score.
Wow.
Yeah.
My dogs clearly think that's crazy too.
So the goal for next year is going to be 1,000 runs total.
Right. Yeah.
No, that's crazy. That's impressive.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we knew the score would be big. We didn't think that it would be quite that lopsided, for one, and two, we were definitely pleasantly surprised by the numbers, the numbers that we did put up. So
Yeah. Did it get a little sloppy toward the end? Like, were you guys all just, was it like kind of slow pitch softball?
not too bad, not too bad. I mean, we did kind of take it easy and kind of clown around a little bit. The 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. slot. Nobody's out there. There's really nobody watching us. The cameras, didn't really start. TV cameras didn't start showing up till maybe 7 or 8. So we'd pick it up a little bit, as the sun started to come up. But I had one guy that he's like, "Hey, I want to play every position in this game in these 4 hours." So he did. He played every single position in that 4-hour block. I had one guy that did pitch 4 full hours. I had one guy that did catch 4 full hours. It was crazy. I never thought that, and I kept asking both of them that, the entire time, "Are you okay? Are you sure you're all right?" And we were fortunate that in a lot of those cases, we just got quick outs, they were fairly quick innings. So he really wasn't putting a lot of stress on his body. So I just kept telling him, "All right, if you feel good, you're saving the arms for later. And as long as you are not hurting, let's keep moving."
That probably helps for, at least for some people, to have like a specific goal in mind, like, oh, I want to play every position or whatever, to push yourself through it. Did you have anything like that for you personally?
I was more focused on my squad. So I really didn't have, anything in mind. Like I said, I would have loved to have played behind the plate a little bit more, just because catcher is my spot. But, I can play anywhere. I did play everywhere throughout that whole 100 hours, while we were on the field at one point or another. I played every position. So I really didn't have anything set in mind. Just trying to get through the 100 hours and make sure my guys stayed healthy. That was kind of the biggest thing on my mind.
I would imagine, since you were doing like the lineups and kind of helping keep things organized, that probably helped keep your mind a lot off, like just all the bad things.
Oh yeah.
You were always having to plan ahead, so
yeah.
Behind you, that certainly would help.
Yeah.
Well, I'm moving word. I mean, I just think this is so cool, like being, not near where you did this, and just hearing about this from connecting with you, that, the fact that you're going to do it again, hopefully will gain even more exposure and excitement around it. And the fact that you've tied the charitable contribution piece to it is really and really motivating, not just for everybody who's playing, but for people to come out and support it too. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, most definitely. And I think a lot of us were motivated in the beginning when we first started talking about this, because the actual world record at the time of the 83 hours was held by a Canadian group. So we were all like, all right, we got to bring this back to the States, right? So that was
this is America's sport.
Yes. That was definitely a motivating factor for sure.
Oh, that's funny. So are you going to get a copy of the book? Is it in the book? Has it not come out in print yet? Because obviously this was pretty recently.
I am not sure if it's out in print yet. We have ordered our certificates, which haven't come in yet. So we will get certificates with our names on them saying we're Guinness World Record holders for the longest continuous baseball game. We were fortunate enough that one of the guys that played with us had connections with Jostens, who does like class rings and whatnot. And we all purchased rings. So we'll have a World Series type ring, that says that we're world record holders. Yeah. So it's pretty awesome. Very excited about that. Can't wait.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. Okay. Well, I'm going to look for the newest Guinness Book of World Records in print. It's been a long time since I've gone out and gotten a printed book. I like to listen to books, but that would be really cool to be like, hey, I know someone in this book.
It
Yep,
looks like you can buy
absolutely.
the book now.
Okay.
So I don't know if it comes like, maybe later and you buy it now, but it looks like
Yep.
you can. So keep an eye on it.
There you go.
My husband loves to go to bookstores, so the next time I'm pulled into one, go
Right.
search it.
And we're going to be like,
Yeah.
we know that guy.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Yeah. Like I said, it's still kind of surreal. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't, you sit there and, we talk amongst ourselves, about being world record holders, and it's just like, okay, I don't feel any different, so, but it's definitely very cool to talk about. When my youngest daughter is in college, and, this being her freshman year, her first few days, my dad's a world record holder, so it was pretty cool to hear that.
That's a big flex for sure.
Yeah. How many people are going to pull that out of their back pocket? So
right. Yeah.
And it's cool that you guys just decided to do it on your own too, because it is something that you can, you have to create the opportunity for yourself, and you certainly have to fulfill it to, make it the opportunity that it is. But to just see something like that and create the opportunity is pretty special.
Yeah. There were a lot of meetings, a lot of, hey, who's doing this, who's doing that. We were very fortunate with the Parks and Recs group that we worked with in North Kansas City. We had live bands out there. We had food trucks out there, so we made a whole big party out of it. It was a lot of fun.
Man, now I gotta. So, are you gonna do it again the same weekend?
I think that's the plan. Yeah, we haven't talked about it a whole lot recently. I think we kind of get through the holidays, and we're still working on our league plans for next year. And I'm sure in conjunction with that, we'll talk about how we're gonna get things moving. Because, like I said, it took us about a year to get everything all put together the last time. So I'm sure it'll take pretty close to the same amount of time to get us settled and get everything together for next year.
Well, this is just giving me another excuse to have to come to Kansas City, because I've heard from a number of people recently that Kauffman Stadium is worth the trip in itself.
Oh yeah.
But since I've got you here, let me ask you, what is, like, I guess barbecue, I know is popular around there. Is there like a spot for someone that is coming to Kansas City that you would be like,
there's so many. I mean, Q39 is one of the best barbecue places. What used to be called Oklahoma Joe's, now Casey Joe's. It's funny because it's in a gas station, right? So, but some of the best barbecue for real, So yeah, there's plenty of, you can't go wrong with too many barbecue spots around here.
Yeah, and if you're gonna have barbecue, I want it to be good barbecue. Yeah. There's a barbecue spot up the street for me here, and I've never tried it because I'm like, I don't know, Chicago's not like a barbecue.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So one of my goals in life is to hit all 30 ballparks. I've been to 13, 15 if you count 2 that have been torn down, the Old Busch Stadium and the Kingdome in Seattle. And so I try to find somebody, hey, somebody that's from there. What do I need to do? Is there something specific I need to do at the ballpark? Is there something specific I need to see at the ballpark? And what do I need, what do I need to eat? Where do I need to go eat?
So, while we're on the topic of if Kelsey visits the K, so it made me think the Royals. And when I was doing a little research about the Endless Game, I found a lot of articles about it. I found one from MLB, and it made me think, did you guys catch the attention of the Royals?
Some older Royals. We did have some older guys like Al Fitzmaurice came out, did some autograph signings. One of the guys knew Greg Pryor, who was a utility guy for us back in the 80s. He came out and signed some things. We had a lot of stuff donated from Royals players for our silent auction. Bobby Witt Jr., we had a signed jersey and bat. Salvi, we had a signed jersey and bat. George Brett, we had a signed bat, so we did get a little bit of exposure there.
That's awesome.
We'd kind of hope that maybe if they were in town that weekend, we'd kind of hope that maybe we'd get a player or two to come out. That didn't come about. But.
Well, now you're world record holders. So when you let us know about next year, you can world record holders are inviting you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Get to it.
Absolutely.
Well, Sean, it's been awesome to meet you, and I thank you so much for sharing all about
Thank you.
this ambitious venture. And we look forward
Yeah.
to keeping an eye out for the next one. Are you gonna play 1 hour and 2 minutes just to beat your own record?
I think the plan is to just do 100 hours at this point. We have heard that the folks who we broke their record in Canada are planning to beat our record, which
No.
so that's what we're hearing. But you never know how much of that is. I mean, as much as went into us playing this 100 hours, I think it's going to be pretty hard to beat, and that was our goal. That was one of our goals, was to try to completely knock it out of the park and put it out of reach. So, but I think we would have gone longer, but something happened with our timer, our clock, that it completely stopped at 100 hours. So,
time to go.
somebody fortunately was there to catch that extra minute, or we would have, because we hadn't finished an inning at that point. That's where we planned to stop once we hit the end of a half inning after the 100 hours. That's when we were going to stop.
Oh, that's
wow.
crazy.
So.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, 83 is not close to 100. So good luck. We'll see.
Yeah.
Shade, but this is America's favorite pastime, and
yep. Yeah, I hope we keep doing it. I would love to at some point have my son play with me in this thing. That would be an awesome experience for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Your son and your brother.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, Sean, will you tell our listeners where they can keep up with you on social media and the Endless Game as well?
Yeah, so my X handle, Twitter, I still call it Twitter, is at Baseball Junkie. I think I can't remember. I have to look now. I don't look at it all the time.
You're like, I don't tweet myself.
Right? Yeah. Let's see. At Baseball Junkie 71. I never know if I use my number or if I use the year I was born. So yeah, at Baseball Junkie 71 is my Twitter handle, X handle, whatever. It's the same thing for my Instagram. And then the biggest thing is endlessgame.org. Please come out, check out our website. We do have merchandise. You guys can donate. It's still open for donations. And hopefully, if you're in the Kansas City area or in and around, and we'll be doing this again, there will be hopefully plenty of notice. Come out and see us. That's the big thing. It was so much fun having the crowds out there. And if you ladies come out to Kansas City and come out to the K, hit me up. We'll go see a ball game.
Yeah. Well, if the Yankees are there, I'm there, because that's 2.5 hours from me. So I will definitely do that. And they do go. They're there once a year. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think it's another great excuse for baseball fans to make a trip out there. So we will throw all of that information in the show notes, so it's super easily accessible. And of course, you can watch here along with us on our YouTube channel at Babes Podcast. Make sure you hit subscribe if you are watching that way. Jana is at 90s Yanks Kid on Twitter. I'm at Cavebird Tweets on Twitter. And you can find us, the show, at Babes Pod on Twitter, at Babes Podcast on Instagram. But make sure you like, follow, subscribe, rate, review if you feel so inclined. We always love that, and it helps a lot to get some good exposure and keep spreading the good word of this game that we all love so much. So have a very happy holiday season, y'all. It was great to connect here before things get too crazy. And at Babes, we are going to see you in 2024. So we will catch you next year.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks, guys.